Hello, travelers. I am Valerie from The Road Lots Traveled. And well, lately, The Road Lots Traveled has been the road not so much traveled. In March, I was actually lucky enough to take a little trip and get my 50th state. I visited Hawaii, had a fantastic time out there, was able to go out to Pearl Harbor. That's what you are seeing here. A lovely experience out in Hawaii. Also spent some time on the Big Island, exploring some of the waterfalls. Just so much to see and do and explore when I was there. And again, this was early March. And so, like what happens with all trips, I took this trip. It was fantastic. I was so excited to go take more trips and just explore even more. And then, as we all well know, the whole world just came to a screeching halt shortly after that. And I was taking no trips. I've actually come back to Western Pennsylvania, where I am from, and I've been spending some time exploring locally around here. And I'm always in search of things to see and do and explore. And I thought that we would kind of mix things up a little bit here. You know, what typically happens with social media is you have this experience, you take some pictures, then you come back on the platform, you tell everybody about it and go, hey, you should go see this experience. I thought, what if we do that differently? What if instead I bring you in on that research process as I'm searching for new places to go, new things to do, local trips that I can take? What if you just came along with me in that quest for more knowledge, more places to go, more adventures to have? So that's what this new show is all about. Here in Exploring Pennsylvania, we're going to talk to local experts about what's happening in the region that they're from. What is it that we would see if we go there? When we go there, what are the must-sees? What can we not miss when we make our trips there? So that's what this show is all about. I want your participation in it. Please just ask questions as we go along. Share what you're learning. Share what you know about. If you've been there and you really loved a certain aspect, let us know about that. Ask your questions. Let us know what you want to hear more of. This show is for you so that we can all have these little micro adventures, if you were. I'm probably not going back to Hawaii anytime soon, but I am traveling here locally, and that's what this show is all about, finding out about those local adventures. So I am thrilled to have our first guest with us today. I thought, what better place to start in Exploring Pennsylvania than right in my own backyard? Not this backyard, this is my literal backyard, but let's start right here where I am from. I live in a part of Western Pennsylvania known as the oil region. So today I am joined by the manager of communications and tourism, Emily Altomar from the Oil Region Alliance. Emily, hello.
Hi, Valerie. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Taking time out of your busy schedule to be here and chat a little bit about the oil region. And that's actually the first question. What is the oil region?
So to define the oil region, there's actually the Oil Region National Heritage Area, which is all of Venango County in northwestern Pennsylvania and a little bit of the southeastern tip of Crawford County. So that includes Titusville, Hydetown Borough, and Oil Creek Township. So that is actually congressionally designated as of 2004 as one of 55 national heritage areas in the United States. And it has the name, the Oil Region or the Oil Region National Heritage Area, because this is the birthplace of the oil region, of the petroleum industry. A lot of people assume that that happened in Texas or maybe Oklahoma or Alaska or somewhere in the Middle East, but it actually all started just a couple miles from where I'm sitting today, along Oil Creek in the woods, right there at what is now Drake's Well.
Fantastic. And you say that it's one of only 55 national heritage sites? Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. So there are 55 in the country. A lot of them focus more on, we're more familiar, a lot of us, with the national park system.
Oh, I cut you off there, Emily. Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry about
much like there are national parks that are more focused on the physical landscape, national heritage areas focus a little bit more on the cultural and the stories and the history and heritage of the things that happened there. So throughout the country, there's a lot of sites that focus on things like the Revolutionary War or the Civil War, and then different cultures of people, different Native American tribes, and just other cultures within American society. But in our case, it's extra special because we focus specifically on this story of the petroleum industry and not so much the discovery of oil, but I mean the discovery of how we can make oil commercially viable and how it was produced and then how it was refined and transported and really the whole industry that grew up around it.
That's fantastic.
All started in the late 1850s.
Exactly. Yeah. It's such a long history, all the way back to the 1850s. The oil industry has been here, and that's why it is now known as the oil region. So you did mention a bit earlier about it being a wooded environment, a lot of countryside here, and this is a pretty typical view that you would see here in the oil region, correct?
It really is. Yeah. I mean, it's, tons of trees. And that one is specifically a shot that's looking down on what we call the valley that changed the world, because the actual first oil well was drilled in the valley, again, along Oil Creek. So it's in a low spot in these wooded hills. So you get views like that all over the place around here.
Yeah, and what comes with amazing views like that and just all of this much forest are really great recreational opportunities as well. And I'm a big outdoors person. I think that's something that I took for granted around here when I was growing up. I didn't realize that not everyone grows up in a place like this with this many outdoor activities, but it is something that's really unique to this region, right?
Absolutely. And when you're younger, you want to get in the car, you want to drive somewhere, have that be part of your adventure. And we're happy to have people come here from all over. Please drive in. But yes, definitely for locals, we're really fortunate to have more than 65 miles of paved bike trail. There's the Girard hiking trail in Oil Creek State Park, which can test your mettle and is actually used for an ultra marathon here in the fall, the OC 100. So you can really get your steps in a lot of unique ways and take in a lot of really gorgeous landscape and flora and fauna. It's really some of the best of what Western Pennsylvania has to offer.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I will not be doing the ultra marathon, but hey, if that's your thing, please come visit us and check us out. Yeah. I've done some day hikes on the Girard hiking trail, and that's lovely too. You can do it in a section, or you can run 100 miles, whatever your preference is.
Exactly. Yeah. The folks that are doing the 100 miles are up all night. They're running around the clock, but it's probably a lot more enjoyable for those of us that are just walking maybe like 5 miles at a time. But yeah, it's whatever you're into, and it's there for a lot of people at a lot of levels.
Great. Yeah. Walk 5 miles and eat some ice cream. That's my level. That's the level where I'm at.
I am all for that too. And there is good ice cream. We actually have a dairy here that's more than 90 years old in Titusville. So it's funny you just mentioned ice cream, but that dairy has been producing for more than 90 years in the same facility. And one of the things they make is great ice cream mix.
Really? I didn't even know that. Yeah, I'm learning.
We could do this all day, really. there's all kinds of stuff. But you were showing a photo.
We should just have an ice cream show sometime. Let's just do an ice cream specific episode.
Well, in the state of Pennsylvania tourism office has a special ice cream trail that you can follow that will take you to some really special ice cream places. And last summer they were doing a big promotion of if you hit enough of the spots on the trail, they'd send you a special ice cream scoop and a t-shirt. So yes,
I love it.
There's plenty to be done on an ice cream show for sure.
I love it. Back to the outdoor recreation. I think world-class fly fishing is what I was once told about this region. I'm not a fly fisher, so I don't know too much.
And specifically about Oil Creek, which is where we're talking about here. And, we've got someone from Wildwood Outfitters who actually take people out, teach them how to fly fish. So maybe that could be another show for you too. Sometime if you're not already fly fishing, you can go out and learn it. But apparently Oil Creek, it's just that right combination of cold water that stays cold, but really clean, which you wouldn't necessarily associate with an area that was once so incredibly industrialized. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of barrels of oil being transported down this creek in the, and I did say creek, Western Pennsylvania.
That's right. That's how it's said.
That's right. In the late 1850s and 60s, they had flat bottom wooden barges that they were sending oil down Oil Creek to Pittsburgh to be refined. And so a lot of that oil was leaking back into the creek, and you had a lot of, just in general, that pre-EPA, we're not really thinking about the environment when we're making money kind of mentality. And to go from that and an oil boom where it was very much rushed to make as much money as possible and produce as much oil as you can, to now we have this pristine environment again where people come from all over to fly fish and just enjoy nature. I mean, you can stand on Jersey Bridge and or Brown Bridge in Titusville and look down and see the bottom of the creek. It's so clean, and it's really a special thing.
Yeah, it really is. It is such a beautiful place, and it's hard to believe that really in the grand scheme of time, not that long ago, there was so much industrial activity, because it is just a beautiful spot now. But aside from fly fishing, lots of ways to get out on the water. There's also a lot of great kayaking in the region too. And I think you mentioned before about some water trails. Can you talk a little more about that?
Yes. So the Oil Region Alliance, where I work, is the manager of the Allegheny Wild and Scenic River Trail, which follows the Allegheny River from the Kinzua Dam region all the way through the oil region and down to Emlenton in the southern part of Venango County. So they're marketing that region. Of course, the Allegheny much larger than Oil Creek, so you can do not just your paddling on that, but you can also have jet boats and motorized boats to again do more fishing, get further up and down the river, but certainly see a lot of beautiful country along the way, and do some fishing and even some tubing, and in some spots even water skiing. So a lot of fun to be had on that. Also, French Creek comes in to meet the Allegheny in Franklin. French Creek is known as being one of the most biodiverse water systems anywhere. They have a great conservation system supporting them. So there's a lot to see and do on that stretch of waterway as well. So really special water just in and of itself, is as far as an environment. But then when you think about it in terms of the history and what all you can do and what it brings for tourism in this area, it's definitely an asset. And I believe that photo was taken at 2 Mile Run County Park. So on Justice Lake, so not a water trail per se, but still we've got some fun flat water and a lot of good opportunities there as well to boat and fish and paddle, and even take your four-legged friends out there too, which looks like
why not? Take the doggos out there too.
Right.
And so we've got you talked about the National Heritage area. Then we've got Oil Creek State Park. And then we've also got 2 Mile, which is a local regional park.
2 Mile
as well.
is a county park, yeah. And so this photo is also from 2 Mile. So in addition to Justice Lake, they have Crosby Beach on Justice Lake, which I hear was booming this summer with the hot temperatures and limited activities. So tons of people going out there and enjoying that local beach scene.
Great. And aside from all of the other outdoor recreational activities, there's also, sticking with the outdoor theme, but not something you might think of as outdoorsy, lots of great golf courses in the area.
Yes. And I think that's something too that's especially nice if you're somebody who's maybe coming from a more urban area like Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, and you are also expecting expense when you want to golf. And we have a lot of really affordable golf options, like many throughout the county and the region. This happens to be Venango Country Club, which is open to the public. They host a lot of events, but you can also, get out there and golf. We're fortunate that you can get out there, like April through the fall, and twilight golf is always a popular event. Yeah, definitely good golfing. And again, golfing is not my sport either, but there's a lot of great golf courses in the region, and it's not gonna, blow your whole vacation budget to play a few rounds.
Yeah, golf is my sport, and one of our viewers too Laura as well is a golf fan. We're happy that you love golf here in this area. One course that I love that I think is technically in the oil region, if not, it's oil region adjacent, is the Foxburg Country Club. I was fortunate enough to play there last year about this time, and it's actually the oldest golf course in the U.S. in continuous use. So they were started in like 1887, I think, and it's a beautiful course. I think it's only a 9-hole course, so you play it twice for your 18. And if you are a golfer and love to play, it's what a lot of frequent golfers call a really tight course. So there's really narrow fairways, so it is a nice challenging course. Don't be like, oh, it's only a 9-hole, I'm not going to bother. It's a gorgeous course, really nice area out there in Foxburg.
Excellent. I appreciate that testimony because, yeah, it is rural region adjacent. So it's just the south, but we do cover Foxburg and a lot of our materials because it's so close to Emlenton, which is in our area. And yeah, and it's just, yeah, it's so scenic. So even for me as a non-golfer, I like the Foxburg golf course just because it's so pretty. It's such a neat, you know, kind of wind up the hill, and then there it is, kind of unfolds before you, and the clubhouse, and again, yeah, and the American Museum of Golf, or the Golf Museum of America, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, exactly. The upstairs there in the clubhouse is this golf museum with a lot of really old clubs and kind of the old golf technology. It's just a neat place to explore. Yeah, it wasn't until last year that I went to check that out, and I've played golf for years, so definitely get out to Foxburg. Now we're in the changing seasons right now. I'm outside and I've got some long sleeves on because it is fall, and I love this next photo that just shows how beautiful this area is in the fall.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. And yeah, so that is also 2 miles. So I mean, yeah, you're seeing the water is so flat, it's like a mirror, and that beautiful fall foliage, which, I mean, you don't have to go all the way to like the northeast states, or all the way to even just north central Pennsylvania. Like, we've got a lot of beautiful color here, and beautiful scenery, and great stuff to drive around and look at, or to hike around and really experience.
Yeah, now the next photo is less my favorite season, but this is coming quite soon.
Well, and you know, we got to include it because it does happen here. We do get a little lake effect snow from time to time, but also cross-country skiing is great. And that's something that's offered a lot at Oil Creek State Park, and they have miles of trails that they groom, and you know, some equipment that you can rent if you don't already have your own stuff. So if you just want to come out and give it a try when the weather's right, it's a great place to be able to explore some new sports and find maybe, you know, like, what is your thing, or just, you know, try it. Especially if you're semi-local, you can, you know, pop down to the park and get even a ski lesson at Oil Creek State Park, or at 2 Mile sometimes, and check that out. I see Kim Harris is commenting on loving the winter in the oil region, as Kim is also one of our expert photographers for the Oil Region Alliance. So she gets to take some beautiful images that happen during that wintry time of year too.
Great. I've only been cross-country skiing once. I loved it. It was in West Virginia, and it was quite mountainy. So I feel like around here, I may have a better shot of succeeding at it. I loved it, but I wasn't so great at it, but want to give it a try. So something to look forward to when the snow gets here, I guess.
Definitely. Well, and that's how you have to look at it, as the thing that makes you then excited for when we do get snow. But, you know, it is so pretty, and we usually aren't covered all the time.
Yes. And when there's not snow on the trails, there's lots of great hiking around, as we mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. I feel like you should almost be able to smell this picture with the ferns and just that piney, you know, like, and it's funny how much the air temperature changes when you're out on the road or in the parking lot before you get, you know, hyped up in here, and just everything gets quieter and you feel like you're in a whole different world. It's really special stuff out there.
It really is. Now, this one we mentioned is not our activity. We're probably not running the trails. If this is trail running, probably not.
Unless I've just seen a snake behind me, then I probably pick up.
Exactly. Same. That's good. Yep. Same here.
Yeah, but a lot of people love it. A lot of people come here to train for other events. But yeah, I mean, and if it is your thing, what better place to do it? And you get, you know, the challenge of these hills, but beautiful views, and occasionally the trail winds around the hill just so that you open out into a beautiful vista and you can really see for miles either up and down, Oil Creek or the Allegheny, and just see a lot of beautiful country.
Yeah, and I wish that this photo was one that you could smell as well. I can smell those crisp autumn leaves in
right, you can
photo.
definitely hear the crunch, right?
Definitely. Yeah, and if you want a bit faster way to explore, there's also some mountain biking around, which I didn't even know about.
Yes, so 2 Mile has mountain bike trails, and there are also some other areas in the Kennerdale tract of the Clear Creek Forest that you can do some mountain biking as well. And there are annual contests for mountain biking to take place in 2 Mile Run County Park. So yeah, mountain biking is getting bigger here. And of course, you can't mountain bike on the hiking trails. I mean, and you don't want to mountain bike on the paved bike trails, but you can still bike ride on the paved trails.
Yes.
But yeah, there's a lot.
And there are many paved bike trails.
Yes. More than 65 miles of paved bike trails.
To see.
Wow. Pardon?
65 miles.
Yes. So part of that is connected to the Erie to Pittsburgh Trail, like the Erie to Pittsburgh bike trail system, which will eventually be a full off-road trail system to connect kind of the bay side of Lake Erie all the way down to the point in Pittsburgh, that you'll be able to travel by bicycle. And of that trail, the most completed portions are here in the oil region.
Fantastic. And one thing I love about our bike trails around here is what's seen in this photo, that you're not just biking through and you're like, well, this is pretty, and that's it. But there's actually interpretive signs as you go that tell you what was there before in the, usually related to oil, in the oil history of this area, which are just a really great added bonus to that outside time.
Absolutely. And in this photo in particular is actually of someone looking at an interpretive panel across the river from Indian God Rock, which I don't know if you're familiar with this as a local, but there is a large boulder along the Allegheny that has carved, I will say, hieroglyphs and hieroglyphs, and that's not actually quite right, but there are carvings from Native Americans who were living here and passing through at that period in time. So that's an interpretive panel that predates our oil history by a lot, but shows about the other people who were living here and their cultures prior to English settlement that then eventually led to our oil heritage. So I mean, just kind of a neat thing, and yeah, like worthwhile stopping and reading those signs when you're out. There's a lot of interesting things that you will learn, both about those sites and then kind of how those affected history in a lot of different ways.
That's great. So yeah, check for those. They're all over the region, but especially along the bike trails, you'll see them as you're going. A bit of a different way to see the countryside, take a train.
Yes, the Oil Creek and Titusville Railroad excursion train leaves from Perry Street Station in Titusville, and it's about a 3-hour round trip. It'll take you through the valley that changed the world, all the way past Drakewell Museum and Park, through Oil Creek Township, and eventually bring you out at Rind Farm, where the train turns around. You can get out and check out the Coal Oil Johnny House, which is a historic property owned and operated as a house museum by the Oil Region Alliance. And then you can also either choose to take your bikes with you and bike back instead of riding the train both ways. Or if you time it right, you can kayak down Oil Creek and then have them pick you up, and you can put your wet kayaks on the open car and get a ride back to Titusville that way. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use the railroad to see the country. And there's great tour guides on the railroad telling you more about the history and what you're seeing and what that environment used to look like during the oil boom.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't know that about the kayaks. That's really interesting. I've only done the the OC&T, as we call it around here, the Oil Creek and Titusville Railroad. I've only done it once, and I did it with my bike, where you take the bike and then bike back.
Okay.
But interesting with the kayaks.
Yes, which is and you gotta you have to
now,
time it.
We're gonna shift gears. Good.
I was gonna say you have to time it right, both for the making sure that you've floated and gotten to you've beaten the train downstream, but you also have to do it certain times of year because Oil Creek not always kayak friendly. It can be very low sometimes. Yes. And one more thing about the Oil Creek and Titusville Railroad, they also do an interesting World War II weekend, which again, other than the fact that our oil history is a big part of the machinery and industrialization and everything that helped us do all those things that took place during World War II. But just they have a celebration that recognizes those sacrifices in that period of time. So they will do a special train ride that is supposed to enact what it would be like if you were a German prisoner of war during World War II on the train and then getting liberated after a battle reenactment. And then you get to return to Titusville and Perry Street Station on an Allied Forces rescued train. And they do a bunch of other events throughout the town, like a USO dance. So I've done that a couple times with the OC&T, and you get to dress up in 40s clothes, and they teach a dance and do a lot of fun things. So it's kind of an interesting, patriotic, historic, but not our usual oil boom time period. So that's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I had no idea that happened, but they do lots of events. So one of our viewers, Laura, wrote in about the wine events they have, and I've read a bit about those. Again, I have yet to be able to take advantage, but definitely on my radar.
They've been doing wine and beer tasting events. They've been doing murder mysteries on the train for a couple of years, and those sell out so quickly. So I haven't done any of those yet because it's these tourists and everybody else who jumping on getting those tickets and doing that train ride. So then that's adding another element of the entertainment, but they're still seeing our oil region and getting a taste of the history. But they're getting something else that's completely different from anything else that we're offering around here.
Oh, that's so great. And so speaking of something different that we're offering, we are going to shift gears. Maybe you're watching this and we've been talking all about the outdoors. Maybe you're thinking, but Val, I don't kayak. I don't hike. I'm definitely not going to run that ultra marathon. I'm not going to do any of these things. As my friend Beth says, I'm more of an indoor cat. How she describes it, but there's also lots happening, and there's a really great art scene here in the oil region. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
There's a lot of community art. I mean, each community has their own arts council. There's a lot focused in Oil City with the National Transit Building. The Oil City Main Street program has a artist relocation program that encourages artists from anywhere in the world really to come here, and they're able to rent homes or buy homes and have studio space. We haven't really mentioned it before, but other than golf courses, but the oil region has a great low cost, high quality of living. So if you are somebody who's creative and you are one of those starving artists, you can come here and not really starve and be well supported in your efforts. And there's a lot art shows and galleries and open mics and art-based events that take place throughout the year. So a lot going on, and this just happens to be murals inside the transit building of oil heritage. And then this is another Oil City outdoor mural. And again, the violinist there for one of the times when they were having an event celebrating all of these murals that are in the community. So there's public art, there's opportunities to make your own art, lots of live concerts, outdoor, free concerts taking place, especially in the warmer months. A lot of good stuff, and theater as well.
Yeah, great theater scene here. And then there's also some of the oldest art around as well.
A full set of Tiffany stained glass windows. That is at the St. John's Church, I believe, in Franklin. Yeah. So, and they do give tours that you can arrange to be able to go and see all of those. That is one of, I believe, only 6 full sets left in the country of those Tiffany stained glass windows.
Yeah, this was
And the
another thing that
churches
I
in
didn't know.
general.
Yeah, the churches around here are gorgeous. This set of Tiffany windows, I didn't know was there until last year. Again, this is the first time I'd seen it. I've spent my entire life in this region, didn't know that these windows were there. I actually wrote a great article for Confetti Travel Cafe, and I'll put that in the comments here after the broadcast, that talks all about the windows, these different techniques that Louis Comfort Tiffany used to design these windows, because they really are just remarkable, just a gorgeous set of windows. If you are from here and haven't been to St. John's, please do go check that out. St. John's Episcopal Church in Franklin. If you're visiting, it is like 1 block off of Liberty Street, the main street there in Franklin. Definitely worth the stop up to check those out.
Definitely. And that's another one of those things where as a kid or somebody who grows up here locally, you might not, you're just like, well, of course we have pretty stained glass windows. But until somebody tells you it's one of only 6 in the country, or, explain, they're not just pretty, but they're in their own right historic and, even more special than you realize. And then you start to pay attention to those things and be like, wow, that community that I grew up in is really something.
Yeah, it's definitely true. There are all kinds of hidden gems around here that we don't realize just how unique and special they are until you dive in a little bit more. And we mentioned earlier that the weather is shifting now. It's starting to get colder. If you are that indoor cat that I mentioned and you don't plan on cross-country skiing, there are more great activities because we do have a lot of great museums throughout the area as well.
Absolutely. And so this is the Venango Museum, which is highlighting, it's an exhibit about Ida Tarbell, who wrote a book that broke up the Standard Oil Company. It led to the rules on monopolies in this country. So, if you're interested in journalism, if you're interested in law and politics, and there's a lot of intersection there with that story. And much like the Ida Tarbell display here at the Venango Museum, the house where she lived as a teenager is in Titusville, and that is also owned by the Oil Region Alliance and operated as a house museum. So that's another spot that you can tour and check out. And in addition to that, there are some events that are held there regularly, including teas that are hosted by members of the students of the Titusville High School that both produce the food that is served at the tea, but also students dress up and reenact specific characters from the oil region, including Ida herself. So you can go there and have a tea and learn a little bit about the historic home, but also some of the movers and shakers of the time and their stories and how that's gone on to affect history. So that's a really cool special event that takes place here.
Interesting. Yeah, I want to check that out now. I've never been to the Ida Tarbell house.
I just got to go. I actually was able to go to the last one that was held before we had to shut things down for COVID. So that was my first time attending. And it's really cool. The kids do a great job, and it's just interesting to see how history is being recreated and that's making, history come alive for young people that are getting to learn it and then turn around and teach it to guests who've come to the area. So yeah, it's a really cool program.
Yeah, a great experience for everyone, for the guests and for the students.
Yeah.
It's great.
So
our next museum.
Yes, this is the DeBence Antique Museum. It is in Franklin and focuses on mechanical musical instruments. I believe they have more than 100 examples of such. So you're seeing like a very old turntable here, but there's a lot of different musical, like music boxes and calliope kind of things. And this is where, like someone else can comment more on the specifics of the music. But again, it's something that you can go in and take tours, and they play some of the instruments for you. And there's a lot of other music paraphernalia kind of in the background. You see some of the things hanging on the walls and such. But I mean, something else, and especially if you're really into music history, something cool to check out. But even if you're not, I think these are examples of these, specific museums they teach you that there is a really interesting story there. And so there's a lot of information to be told.
Yeah, getting back to Debents is high on my list. When I was a kid, we had a player piano here in our basement, and my sister was the piano player, so she learned how to play, took lessons. When she left the house, my parents actually donated it to Debents, and I don't know what happened to it, so I need to go see if they restored it. Was the piano that was all through my childhood? Is it there now? I don't know. It's a lot of suspense to see what happened to it, but it's a really great place.
Hopefully be reunited with your childhood piano.
I still don't know how to play it, but that's why it's a player piano. If they restored it, it plays itself. It's a win for everyone at this point. What's going on in this picture?
So this is a photo from Pit Hole, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention Drake Well specifically when we're talking about museums. I didn't include a photo because quite honestly, we use photos of Drake Well all the time. It's kind of one of those cornerstones because there is a museum devoted to the exact location where that first commercially successful oil well was drilled by Edwin Drake on August 27th, 1859. So that official site is a state museum, the Drake Well Museum and Park. There's a state-of-the-art facility for all the indoor cats to go and explore and learn about, again, the petroleum industry and how that has changed culture and society across the planet. But there's also outdoor exhibits that show some more about the industry and how things changed with the equipment. And you can actually go in and watch a demonstration of how that first oil well would have been drilled and operated. And there are great stories down there, like Bill Stemp, who's featured in this other photo, who will tell you about how all of that came to be. But another property of the Drake Well Museum and Park is Pit Hole, which is an oil boom town that is now just a field, but there is a visitor center with an amazing diorama that shows what it would have been like when it had hotels, newspapers, churches, schools in a little tiny space that is now returned to just being this hillside in northwestern Pennsylvania. So they do lantern tours on fall evenings. I think it's every other year. They've been trading off between Pit Hole and Drake Well. So this is a photo of some people who gathered around, and you walk around the remains of historic Pit Hole City, and different reenactors from the community tell you different stories about what was going on there and what life was like. And, we're talking about, very, very gritty, kind of like picture the Wild West, but instead of being the Wild West and gold mines and, that kind of, maybe like frontier and ranchers, we're talking about the one-time frontier of northwestern Pennsylvania and the oil boom. So you've got drillers and people making barrels and taking oil to market, and people fighting over land rights and all kinds of stuff. So again, another example of those stories being brought to life.
Yeah, I'm working on another project, had to do some research about Pit Hole, and discovered that at one time they had the third largest post office in Pennsylvania. So it was right behind Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. And you go there now and it looks just like it does in this photo. It's just some grass and some trees, but it was such a boom town that it just took off like that and had just a massive population pour into that area.
Yeah, and there are a lot of stories about life there. So it's definitely interesting. And one of those things that read about it all you want, but until you stand there and see it and imagine it, it's incredible to think about what all was going on in that little plot of land.
Yeah, so absolutely. Now, which house is this?
So this is the Tarbell house. And interestingly enough, we talked about Tarbell earlier, but parts of the Tarbell house, a lot of the Tarbell house, was built out of an old hotel that had been in Pit Hole City. So Ida Tarbell's father bought the old Bonta Hotel from Pit Hole, tore it down. Someone else will be able to tell you the exact mileage, but I mean, I feel like it's a 10 or 15-minute car ride now. So you can imagine how much of a horse-drawn wagon ride carrying lumber from this broken down hotel from Pithole to then be rebuilt here on Main Street in Titusville. But this is the current day Ida Tarbell House, or the Tarbell House. It has been renovated by the Oil Region Alliance. Took nearly 10 years to get it back to looking as much like it did when it was first built. And so in the foreground, you see another one of those interpretive panels. That's one of about 20 in Titusville alone. That's part of the Titusville walking tour. And this particular photo is of a Shakespeare on the Lawn event that took place last summer, where you can, if you've got good vision, you can kind of zoom into the center and see that there's an actor who's stepped out of those floor to ceiling windows in kind of the parlor of the Tarbell House out onto the porch to deliver some lines of Shakespeare to the crowd gathered on their lawn chairs out front.
Great. Yeah, I definitely want to get up to the Tarbell House. That sounds right up my alley. I need to check that out. Titusville in general, I need to explore more. So I'm coming up. But let's move back to Franklin and a little bit about a lot of festivals happen throughout this area. Obviously not right now, just like any area where you would be in the world. Not a lot of in-person festivals, but in a normal year, let's talk a little bit about the festivals that do happen around here.
Okay, so I believe this is an Apple Fest photo, which is Franklin's largest largest festival, which takes place in early October. That happens to be a shot of the iconic courthouse with the two bell towers or clock towers there, kind of, an iconic image of Franklin. But Franklin's slogan is always eventful. So practically every month there's a different event that's taking place there. But Apple Fest, by far the largest, drawing in hundreds of vendors and thousands of guests each year. And that kind of ties into the Johnny Appleseed legend, that Johnny Appleseed traveled through from the northeast of the United States through the Northwest Pennsylvania and lived for a couple of years in Franklin and started some apple orchards as he then moved west. So here we are with this little bit of the background of why Apple Fest, because you won't necessarily find a lot of apple orchards adjacent to downtown Franklin, but you will find tons of restaurants and shops. And you mentioned Liberty Street earlier, which is a beautiful main street, well preserved, lots of great Victorian style architecture. And again, just quaint shops, great food. So a wonderful place to spend an evening or hang out, spend an afternoon, even when there isn't a festival going on. But yeah, lots of events that take place there, as well as Fountain Park and Bandstand Park.
Yeah, and it's also central. Both those parks Emily just mentioned are just on either side of the courthouse that you see here. So it's a really great area to just park the car, spend the evening just walking around, checking out the shops, the parks, the restaurants, the brewery. A really nice evening in town. But we'll go from downtown, bustling Franklin to the middle of the forest in Rockland. What is this?
So this is the Iron Furnace, yes, in Rockland, and it's also close to the bike trail, the Allegheny River, and one of a handful of tunnels that you can go through when you're riding your bike. And it's also kind of what would be behind us from this photo is Freedom Falls, which is one of several beautiful waterfalls in the oil region. If you don't mind getting your feet a little dirty, it is well worth the trek. You kind of travel down a dirt road, and it's not really too far off the dirt road, but you walk down in and see both the beautiful waterfall and then this structure, which I like to think of as something out of an Indiana Jones movie, this large stone structure that you can actually go inside. We've talked about doing kind of a scavenger hunt of photos for the oil region, and one of them that we say, you got to get your photo inside the Rockland Iron Furnace. I've been in it, I've done it. Again, kind of creepy, but also very cool. You can stand in there and look up, and it's amazing again, some of the industriousness that was taking place as people were, again, digging out mountainsides to make room for the railroads to go through, and harnessing the power of water, and then what they were doing with iron, steel, coal, and eventually petroleum. It's incredible, and you can really see those things here in a way that you can't just experience them any other way.
Yeah, I've actually never been to the Iron Furnace or to Freedom Falls. Again, don't know how that's possible. I've been to all 50 states, but I haven't been to waterfalls in Rockland. I don't know. I've been by it. I've been to the bike trail there, the tunnel. I've been through the tunnel, but I don't know. This I have been to. Light Up Night in Franklin. I've been there. It's great.
Yes. Again, here's the courthouse. Gorgeous fireworks, tons of community support and participation, and one of those many festivals that keeps Franklin always eventful.
Yeah, we've got Light Up Night, and then Franklin on Ice as well, I believe it's called.
Yes, so another one of those wintertime things, but this is certainly a fun thing to do when it's freezing or colder than freezing. Our ice carving teams come to the park and do numerous sculptures, as well as they do timed competitions. I'm guessing this is something that a lot of people wouldn't say first on their list of, I'm really interested in ice carving, but then you attend an event like this and it's amazing what people can do, starting with a block of ice and a chainsaw, and how intricate and artistic the outcome is. So something just kind of fun. This is held in February, so not a lot of other excuses to be outside in the park on a Saturday afternoon, but this is a good one. And the town has evolved to have a lot of additional events and festivities around it, like indoor sidewalk sales and chili cook-offs, things to help you go warm up and check out, as well as the Nature Art Showcase takes place that weekend too, which is highlights a bunch of different local artists' artwork that has to do with, again, the beautiful scenery and outdoors of the communities.
Oh, I didn't know anything about that. I knew Franklin on Ice, but not the Nature Art Showcase.
Oh. So that's that takes place in the Barrow Civic Theater lobby as a fundraiser for the Council on Greenways and Trails, which is one of the organizations that supports the trail development in the area. So that'll be another one to look for.
Yeah, I will have to do that. And then this event I just recently found out about. This was news to me.
So this is Rockin' River, also held in Franklin. It is a national stone skipping contest. And, again, if you thought that you didn't have an interest in ice carving and I tried to sell you on that, just wait until you hear about like Guinness Book of World Records stone skipping. And we're talking like tens of skips per throw. Like, I think the record is maybe 80 or in the 80s, or at least in the upper 60s. I know, and I can barely string together like 2-3 skips myself.
I'm happy if it skips at all, and they're getting 60, 70, 80 skips.
Yes, but again, there's both an amateur and a professional competition here, as well as stuff for kids. And there's all those other fun things about, community festivals. So like the food and music and, the fun festival atmosphere. But these are serious athletes participating in a serious contest that people come literally from around the world to participate in.
Wow.
So who knew? But of course, why not?
This is on my list. I have to go see this. It sounds, again, right up my alley. This is perfect. So we've covered a lot here. If you could talk a little bit about things to eat and places to stay. We've got visitors coming in town, want to explore the oil region, just a quick synopsis of what those accommodations will look like.
Okay, well, and this photo just happens to be of an event that takes place annually at the Drake Well Train Depot. So if you're getting on and off the Oil Creek and Titusville Railroad at Drake Well, this is where you would do it. But this particular event is the annual Farm to Fork event, which is a local food featured event. We have a local chef that makes food completely out of things that he buys from the Titusville Farmers Market and other locally grown or raised foods. And so then it's like about 5 courses of sampling that, along with local beer and wine, live music outside in this beautiful setting. So it's a lot of fun. That happens every September. So that's a fun thing to look for. There's lots of things to eat and things to eat and places to stay. Lots of small family-friendly locations, but we do have a few wineries, breweries, distilleries kind of coming up in the communities. Ham loaf is something that I mentioned on the oilregion.org website under food, because that's kind of a northwestern Pennsylvania tradition. It's sort of like meatloaf, but instead of beef, it's ham. That's on a lot of local menus.
Love me some ham loaf. I do.
See, okay, so it's not just a thing we say; it's a practice.
Nope.
Yep. We talked about ice cream a little bit. I'm trying to think if I'm overlooking something specific. I mean, we've got coffee shops and bakeries. The smiley face cookie that you may be familiar with if you eat at Eaton Park was developed right here in Titusville. And then, yes, there's a Warner's Bakery. Okay, so now we got to tell it. So Warner's Bakery in Titusville was right near the elementary school that Jim Broadhurst attended as a boy. And he would stop there and buy cookies on a regular basis. And the cookies were iced with, 2 dots for eyes and a smile for a smiley face. And it was a sugar cookie. And when Jim grew up to be a restaurateur and founded Eaton Park, he asked if he could use that as kind of, one of the staples of his restaurant chain. And they made an agreement. And so you can still get a smiley face cookie here at Warner's Bakery, but you also get them at those Eaton Park restaurants throughout Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia. So that's just another one of those cute little hometown stories.
Emily, you are blowing my mind. I had no idea. That is incredible. Now I've got to go. I've never been to Warner's Bakery. Now, really, Titusville. I'm missing out. I need to get up to Titusville more often.
There you go. And I do have a little bit of home field advantage. I've lived here for the last 12 years and worked as the Chamber of Commerce director prior to joining the ORA to talk about tourism. So I've got a good handle on Titusville offerings. But then when I started working in Oil City, I found out about Clark's Donuts, which I'd known about Clark's Donuts, but I hadn't had and then developed an addiction to Clark's Donuts, which I now have.
Yes.
So I have to get out on the bike trail more to even out all the Clark's Donuts.
Exactly.
The cinnamon rolls.
That's why there's so much recreation around here, because there's so much good food that we're all just looking for balance. So we need to have a mix of it.
It's true.
Great. Well, Emily, if people are interested in coming here, even if they're locals and just want more information, what are some resources where they can find out more about the oil region?
So I just mentioned the oilregion.org website. That is the Oil Region Alliance website. It's the website of the Oil Region National Heritage Area, but it also covers tourism-specific stuff. So you'll get listings of restaurants in each of the communities, as well as restaurants for lodging, which I know Val, you mentioned to mention some of those. So we've got your standard hotels that you're used to in every community, as well as a lot of bed and breakfasts and new Airbnb and other home sharing locations are coming up all the time. They've been huge this summer with the pandemic. So we've had a lot of great people getting traction with their home shares, lots of camping, including everything from primitive to, a cabin that you call camping, and it's actually nicer than a lot of people's homes. We even have, you can stay in the Caboose Motel, which is part of the Oil Creek and Titusville Railroad. You can spend the night in a refurbished railroad car. So that's another cool and unusual experience that takes place here in the oil region. At the ORA office, which is located at 217 Elm Street in Oil City. We also have a lot of brochures. We do an annual oil region visitor guide. So I've got a copy of that right here. You can pick this up at the Chamber of Commerce's in your area, as well as distributed throughout the region. And we will happily mail them to anybody who wants this and any other information. We have a lot of maps. We have a waterproof map of the water trails, so you can actually have that open while you're kayaking and seeing sites by the waterways. And lots of other publications and reference materials to help you learn about what the oil region has to offer and how you can make the most of your time when you visit.
Fantastic. So I hope that you are all excited out there to come visit the oil region. And Emily, I want to end with this. I want to know what your perfect day in the oil region looks like. And then since I'm familiar, or thought I was familiar with this area, I'm going to share mine as well. And any viewers out there watching, if you're familiar with this area or you just heard things that you think you want to try, I want you to put that in the comments, what your perfect day in the oil region looks like. So Emily, take it away. What's your perfect day look like here?
Okay. So we're going to start with those Clark's Donuts, because why not get a good amount of sugar in? I like the idea of getting out early on the bike trail or hiking out to the swinging bridge that goes across Oil Creek in the Oil Creek State Park, getting a little quiet time in nature, then maybe moving over to 2 Mile and getting on the water. They've got some kayaks available there to rent, so you don't have to worry about packing up your own equipment, because on my perfect day, I don't want to have to deal with ratchet straps. But get out there and maybe paddle around a little bit and see some nature, then move into Oil City for a quick bite in a coffee shop, maybe some art exhibit or event that's going on, and then over to Franklin for a little bit of that downtown and nightlife, dinner outside, and then a Barrow Civic Theater show. Those are always so good and a lot of fun. That's something that I've been missing lately, but I think that would be kind of the perfect day. You get a little bit of the outdoor, you get a little bit of heritage and a little culture and a lot of food. And what
sounds great. Yeah, Emily, our perfect days are almost identical. It's okay. Uncanny how similar they are, because mine, I'd start at Clark's Donuts in Cranberry. Got to start at Clark's. Then I would have my bike with me, and I would hit the Sandy Creek Trail in Cranberry. Love that trail. Probably my favorite in the region. Lots of bridges, lots of waterways. Just a beautiful spot. So I'd do the Sandy Creek Trail. Then I'd head back out to Cranberry. I'd probably grab lunch at Two Cousins in the Cranberry Mall. The subs at Two Cousins are fantastic.
The pizza by the slice.
Yeah, exactly. You'll get pizza. I'll get a sub. Okay. And then same thing. I would head into Oil City. I'd grab some coffee at Karma Coffee. Then I would head up to Pit Hole. I haven't been there in years. I would love to go check out Pit Hole again. Would love to take a ride on the Oil Creek and Titusville Railroad. So kind of do that in the afternoon, that area there around Oil Creek State Park. And then same thing. I'd head into Franklin that evening, probably grab a beer and something to eat at Trails to Ales Brewery right there on Liberty Street, and then go right across the street to the Barrow Civic Theater and enjoy a show. So really the same itinerary. It's great. I love it.
Okay. I kind of started from the north and went south. You started south and came north, but that all works. Yeah. There's something for everybody here. There's actually a lot of things for everybody here.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot happening here in the oil region. Well, Emily, I can't thank you enough for joining us here today, sharing everything that the oil region has to offer. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun talking with you, Valerie. We'll look forward to getting out and showing you some more.
That's right. I'll see you at Clark's Donuts, okay?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you, Emily. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today. I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch. And I think I learned a lot today. I mean, I kept saying, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was here. That smiley face cookie is still just blowing my mind. But some of my favorite items now on my oil region bucket list, I really want to go to Rockland Furnace and Freedom Falls. That is top of mind for me. I would love to do a combo of the bike trails and the water trails, because you can bike up one way and float down, like Emily was mentioning. The water trails, I haven't done too much on those, so I would really love to check that out. The Ida Tarbell House is now on my oil region bucket list. I want to try fly fishing, and I want to give cross-country skiing another go. So leave a note in the comments or reply to this tweet, however you're watching this. Just let me know what it is that's now on your oil region bucket list. We would love to hear what it is that you're checking out, what adventures you've already had, what it is that you've loved. But thank you so much for joining us today for this very first episode of Exploring Pennsylvania. Have a great day.